Hello and welcome to today's video. So this time I'm going to be taking a look through another batch of vintage pre-war Penguin paperbacks. I'll be going through them, cleaning them up, taking out any old pencil or price markings and generally getting them looking as good as possible when they're in my collection. So without further ado, sit back, relax and let's get to it. So first one we're going to look at is 227, the Fleet Hall Inheritance, a nice thick Penguin crime here, and I'll just check the dates on these ones. This is 1939, so no signs of wartime paper rationing just yet, but come the end of the batch that we're going to look at today, you'll just see the first sorts of signs of it, with paper starting to get a little bit scarcer in the UK as German bombing starts to bite. And Penguin have to react to that by making the books a little bit thinner and printed on not such good paper. This is one I got recently because I had a nice copy of it, but it was a reprint. And I was after the first for quite some time. I got one eventually. It's a little bit more low grade than I'd like, to be honest. But, you know, at least it's a first. Yeah, not the greatest of condition, but quite a scarce one there, I think. This is a favourite of mine. I love C.S. Forester. He went on to write the Hornblower novels, of course. This is the gun. Unusual for Penguin to have a little illustration on the front, but they did experiment with the odd sort of cover illustration around this time, but very, very sparingly. That's all right. I said the biggest thing on these, I think, is they've never had their tops wiped off ever. See something like that, look how dusty that is, so it's really going to benefit from it. This one's actually still in its dust wrapper, so we'll slip that one off. All of these that we're seeing here were issued in a dust wrapper until a little bit later on when they dropped them, so we'll mention that at the time. Underneath, of course, this one's, you know, the dust wrapper's done its job. It's really, really looked after this particular copy, so it's ended up in remarkably great shape. Probably not the most riveting title, shall we say, either. The dust wrapper itself can't really do a lot with these, can't even polish them, because they're just matte paper. So there won't be any polishing today on any of these books because they're just too, they're too old and fragile, and polish would just damage it. So all we can really do is give them the visual once over, get the top edges rubbed off, and remove any pencil marks should there be any. Also any sort of spine defects can be re-glued, that sort of thing. Vita Sackville West, all passion spent. Nice copy of this one. And some of these, like this one, is really, really nice on the shelf. My suspicion is I've probably got the dust wrapper for this, but it was so tatty, I've got it separate in another box. So I have got a big box, and it's just unfolded out dust wrappers and lots of old vintage Penguins. So should I ever come to sell them, I'll dig those dust wrappers out and match the ones up. Same with this one, almost certainly. It's lovely underneath, but I've probably got a dust wrapper for it somewhere. Bit of an odd one, this, because it's got really, that's supposed to be a horse. It's terrible sort of illustrations. I don't know why they bothered, to be honest. Those Greenland Days, Martin Lindsay. Now this one has actually got a photo insert because it's a cerise one, which is for travel. So all the travel ones are in cerise. And there are collectors of just the travel titles, you know. Now it's got a very small name inside. Nuffield House, that's interesting. But it's in pen, so can't have a look at that. Now this same author did a book on Captain Scott, so I'm guessing that's like Antarctic exploration. Here's a yellow one. We've got a real mixture of colours today, but here's a yellow one, which is sort of Penguin's Miscellaneous series. It's a Book of Lear, one that I really do enjoy. And cartoons. Oh, what's this inside? An insertion. I wonder if it's a period review or something like that. Have a look at that in a sec. So far, no marks to rub out, not even any spines to clean. Still 1939, so what's this inside? Runcible, Sir Thomas Tusser. That's nothing to do with the book. No, there is that. No, there's that something. Oh, it's a little bit on Edward Lear here. Yeah, a little bit on Edward Lear. I mean, I don't know. It doesn't really lend itself to that book. I know it's a book of Lear, but it's not something I think I'm going to keep. Not that particular one. If it was a bit more exciting, I would keep it together. James Hilton, The Passionate Year. Little £1.20 inside, but can't do a lot about that. The South Seaman, Western Martyr. And this one is in a wrapper. Sometimes when they've been in a wrapper, it just keeps this like a little tiniest layer of dust. Very, very interesting. It's like it's sort of something that's over the years, over the decades these are. Don't forget these are almost, well, most of these are over 85 years old now. Like the dust seems to get in between the book cover and the actual book, and cause this little layer of dust. Dust wrapper is not bad on this one. So now it's got the little reading case label there. So Penguin produced these sort of hard cloth bound reading cases, and what they encouraged you to do was, with your Penguin, was to cut that little square out and you could put it on the spine of the reading case so you know which book was inside. I do have a little selection of those, which I've covered on my other channel. Not many, because they're quite scarce these days, the proper Penguin ones with a Penguin logo on the front and the spine, but nice to see that little reading case label. I think they did that on most of them around this period. Go she must. So again, it's like, it's got a little layer of, you can sort of feel it, a little layer of dust on these. There we are, a bit of a tatty old wrapper, but I'm not gonna, it's not on an upgrade list at all. Because these ones here, I don't mind if they're in a wrapper or not. If they are, it's a bonus. If not, I'm not worried about it. Obviously, if a better one was to come my way, then I absolutely would upgrade it, of course. Another one in the yellow miscellaneous series, the Complete Angler. Very, very dusty on top. It's going to make such a difference when we give these a brush off in a minute. This one's got some nice wood cuts in, not many, but a few. I think that was quite famous because it was written specifically for the Penguin main series as a new title. It's a nice copy of this one, nice and bright, 239, Stealthy Terror. Really sort of sums up Penguin crime of this period, doesn't it? You can see why, you know, the Penguin crime titles are, in particular, some of the most sought after of the entire publisher's output. Is their classic crime stuff. I'm thinking, yeah, we'll just do a couple more, and then we'll give this first batch a rub down. White Cockatoo. This was another one that took me a little bit of time to find in first edition. Not particularly rare, just, you know, it just didn't seem to turn up. Now this one actually needs the spine re-gluing. Like you can see, it's coming away quite severely, so we'll do that in a sec. I don't think there's any other markings inside. Not that I can see. No, there we are. It's just going to be in there. We need to get some glue in there. So I've got I'm not going to take the whole cover off, but I've got some Pritt stick, and I can be fairly liberal in squeezing that in, to be honest. There's no way I can get the actual Pritt stick itself down there, so I'm going to have to be quite liberal putting this on. But that's okay. I don't think we're going to have many repair jobs to do today, because the Penguin books were, these are the paperbacks I've, collected for since I was, a teenager, really. In my late teens, early 20s, I actually started collecting Penguin books, and I've never really stopped. So actually that's come right away, look at that. I've never really stopped. So over the years, I have, generally speaking, kept the books in fairly nice condition as I've sort of come across them. But this one was actually a recent addition. When I say recent, I mean in the last couple of years. So that's, it must have just missed quality control, because nowadays when I get new books, I like to clean them all as they come in, really, because they're in all sorts of shape when they come from online, aren't they? So as you can see, it's not a big job to put a nice wedge of Pritt stick in there, and that will just keep this book together. Last thing we want to do is have that showing or make it any worse. So there we are, that'll be absolutely fine, and that'll go rock solid over the next couple of weeks, and then you'd never know it had been repaired, unless you watch this video, of course. Right, Shalimar, A Windjammer's Hat for Dick. Now, Shalimar wrote all sort of naval related books. This is a pretty nice copy of this one, although I did spot a little 986 VG. So does that denote September 1986, when maybe someone first got it? I don't know. Who can tell? Someone's little annotation. Very, very nice, bright one, that. And then a pretty nice jacket as well, all things considered. A little bit of sunning on the spine, but that's normal. It's not an expensive book or anything. And the fiction ones aren't, they're just not, on the whole, then you're not talking a lot of money with these. It's the crime ones that are the big money. And we got just one more here, which is Hindu Holiday, 242. Starting to see the first signs of war coming in now, certainly with the period adverts. And it won't be long before dust wrappers are dropped completely. There we are, 1940, so Britain is at war. Right, so what I think we'll do, we'll just pop these into, say, 3 convenient piles, like so, and give them all a brush off with my little shoe brusher. So this is super soft, so it doesn't do the books any harm at all. But the top edges, which are the worst ones, of course, should benefit greatly. And they do. Wowee. Okay. Yeah, a couple of these were bad. Made a huge difference to these. I'm being a bit more delicate than usual because these have got wrappers on, and I don't want to damage or chip the wrappers. They look much better, and they really do. Lovely. Excellent, that's the first little batch done. Right, 243, The Tavern Knight. Another one by Raphael Sabatini. Famously author of Captain Blood was his big hit. A swashbuckler. Absolutely fine, that one, to be honest. I've never read a Raphael Sabatini. Maybe I should, just for fun one day. If anyone has read him, please leave a comment below. What's he like? Grump folk going home. Constance home. The spines come away a little bit there. I think I will just put a little thin line of glue just along that top edge there, because it is coming away a little bit. Don't think it's going to hurt at all. Just stop it getting any worse. Doesn't need a lot, just a smidgen. It's just where this old glue, 1940, so these are 80 years old, these books that we're dealing with here. All of these 80 years old or more, 80, 81 years old. The glue in that time really has held up remarkably well. Although obviously these have been in a collection and they've not been read and reread like some of the books. This is where a little screwdriver can be quite handy for getting into the little cracks, the nooks and crannies of a vintage paperback. There we are. So now I can fold that cover over and push it down, and it should stay in place a little bit better. In fact, I'm going to put a little bit just in the bottom of the spine as well. You can see it's come up a bit. Just need to tease that in. Not a lot, there we are, just a little bit. Just tease that in. There we are. Just enough to put enough in there to keep it in place like so, which is done. Lovely. Not a great copy, but I think it's a slightly scarcer one. Wait till we get to the wartime ones, which are coming up, so you'll find that the books are very, very fragile indeed, and we're going to need to be using kid gloves, and the books are also extremely valuable. They're amongst the most valuable Penguin books of all. So when we do get to that stage, probably won't be so many books that we'll look at, but we'll have a few difficult repair jobs on our hands, I think. Even now, these are really quite nice condition considering their age. That one's had a bit of a loose spine, which has been repaired long, long ago. Folded over page there. Oh look, that's because look, it's been miscut. So that has to be folded over, else it would stick right out. So we'll leave that as is. And that happens now and again at the printers. Just how the book was made underneath. And look at that, it's really bright. Now, this has got a couple of little creases on the dust wrapper, so we'll slide it back in. Like so, and then that little top nick there needs to be folded back over like that. There we are. Right, nice crime one now, Death in Ecstasy, J.M. Marsh. A little bit lower grade than some of the other ones because it's a crime. Not unusual at all. Apart from that, it's alright, to be honest. This is nice, actually, now. Crime one in a wrapper. It's a rarity in itself. Underneath, it's very, very nice condition. Yeah, pretty nice, that one. I mean, not massively valuable, but, you know, certainly worth a few quid. I'm imagining that one in its wrapper is probably a good 30 to 40 pound. I would imagine. Wartime Penguin crime in a wrapper. As I say, it's not amongst the rarest ones by any means, but it's still quite nice to have in that condition. Here's a bit of a classic, Ragged Trousered Philanthropist, Robert Tressel. First Penguin one of this, what will prove to be a classic book. Interested to see the printing history. So first printed April 1914, had 4 reprints, and then it came out to Penguin in 1940. Those 4 reprints were probably the hardbacks. Fate Cannot Harm Me. Fine. Another crime. Another one in the dust wrapper. This one's probably a little bit more collectible because J.M. Marsh is herself collectible as an author. So this particular one in a wrapper is really nice to have. Yeah, underneath it's quite a nice beauty, that one. The dust wrapper, you know, it's about average, I suppose. All of these are out there though in top condition, if you're lucky enough to find them, even the crime ones. But the very best copies are just in collections now, and they only seem to come to market when someone dies, which is really sad, but it's true. Away from it all. Another one in a wrapper. I'm surprised I had so many in wrappers, to be honest. That's a little paid for insert, that one. Can you write? Quite a common one for the period. Encouraging people to become writers, or at least try their hand. And I am taking all the wrappers off just because underneath, as I said, they've got that like little layer of dust which accumulates. So rather than leave the dust wrapper on, I'll take it off. And it's got a very neat name on the inside. Someone who lived in Ordnance House. I wonder if that's a wartime related address. Very nice copy of that one. Travel one again. And a previous owner's name, even if it's in pen, I don't really mind it. You know, it just sort of gives it a little bit of history sometimes, doesn't it? £2.56, lots of crime this time round. Another one in a wrapper, albeit the flap's just about to fall off. It's very difficult to describe, but you can sort of, when you put your hand over it, you can sort of feel that minuscule layer of dust. Gently pop this bit back in. I think it's probably going to fall off at some point, but it's still on there just for now. Here's, I believe, the first Graham Greene in Penguin. It's a Battlefield. Nice copy of this one as well. I am planning to do a special on Graham Greene in Penguin over on the other channel. And I do the odd like special on a particular author in vintage paperback. I've done John Steinbeck recently and Georgia Simenon. But in the past I've done Leslie Charteris and Agatha Christie, George Orwell, another one I enjoyed doing. So if you'd like to know a bit more about a particular author and their works across pre-1970s paperback, do check my other channel out, because that's where I post 3 times a week, and almost always at least one book related video a week on that channel. So right, I think we need to give these a bit of a dust off before we go any further. Quite a bit of this particular batch. It's only to be expected, since these have never had the top edges ever cleaned. It's only something I've started doing of late, and it's made such a difference to my book collection. It really has. Because when the books are on the shelf, I generally have them covered up, these old ones, with beer towels to stop more dust landing on them. Lovely. Quite a bit off those, which is good. That's the idea. Wild Oats. This one's a minter. Look at this. Absolutely pristine. Look at that. That's what you call a time machine book. 80 years old, that. Look at that. Even the paper quality is virtually hardly any signs of aging at all in that one. Very, very nice indeed. Look at how bright it is. God, if only they were all like that, eh? Yeah, that is a definite candidate for a time machine book. I keep meaning to make a little note when I come across books which were absolutely pristine, because I'm going to do like a mock Back to the Future where the all the books I'm dealing with are all really old like that, but they're in just top shape. There always seems to be one odd one. This is a bit more average. Captain Albert Bell here. This is a puzzle book, so we need to check to see if any of the puzzles are done. I'd probably leave them, to be honest, like the crossword books, because it's too much of a job. And you can see that this is started in 1940. You can start to see the first signs of lower quality paper creeping in because of wartime standards and paper rationing. Although amazingly, this is still in a wrapper. We've got a handful still in wrappers to come, but then we won't see a wrapper again until after the war. That one there, that's Write and Tell Them with a penguin pen, and you see he's got the British Tommy poking Adolf Hitler at the bum with his bayonet. Because at this time already we had prisoners of war in Germany, if any penguins turned up and they had that advert in, the penguin books weren't given to the inmates because they had that offensive Hitler cartoon in, so they soon stopped that once word got back, because it defeated the object. This one's got a little 1086 in again, a bit like that one earlier on. I reckon this was a previous owner or previous collector who was just making a little note maybe of when he received that particular book, maybe. I don't know, it's just a guess, but some collectors did that. I know with key books that were expensive, I can generally remember where I got them from, how much I paid, that sort of thing. Also with books, even if they're rare books that I didn't pay a lot for, I remember where I found them, because that sort of stuff doesn't get forgotten easily. This one's got the remnants of a dust wrapper, so I ought to take that out and put it in my dust wrappers box. Spanish Gold. Another one by Sabatini. Underneath, quite a nice bright copy of that one. Wrapper's seen better days, of course, but generally speaking, it's all right. Sounds like a bird outside the studio. Well, definitely a bird, like a blackbird or a crow, something like that. Bit of the dust wrapper come off there, so hopefully we'll try and keep that flat. So I've got a dedicated studio where I film all my videos, and it is in my garden. Simple as that. It's like a glorified shed. So I've had sound proofed inside, so I don't have much of an echo, but that doesn't stop the odd bird and stuff landing on the roof. And I encourage wildlife in the garden, so I'm not going to stop that happening. But, you know, it would be nice if I could just put up a little sign to say, filming today, please land on a tree instead, like, you know, but I suppose I could always have a little stick next to me that I could just bang on the ceiling, and that would make the birds fly away. But you do sometimes hear them pitter-patter on the roof. We sometimes, in fact for a long time, we had a pair of pigeons would visit us, homing pigeons, and they'd often stop in the garden before they went on their merry way. Just doing these ones, and then we've got another. We're about 2/3 of the way through now. See, the third one in there was particularly bad, so I'm giving that one a really good. You can almost see the dust coming off it. God blimey. Wow. And as I said, I may have had these for decades myself, like a couple of decades, maybe more. But they've never really been cleaned like this, ever. What a difference that's made. For some reason that particular book was really, really aged compared to some of the other ones. There we are. I'm going to start a third pile over there. Let's give these a brush. Now this top one here, there's the tiniest little top of the spine nick that I want to just put a little bit of glue on. You can just see it there, just in there. So I'm just going to splurge a bit of glue there on the corner. There we are. Perfecto. Just a quick little running repair, as it were, just where that top of the spine had a little nick. There we are. Right, we're on to the last pile now. So 266, The Dying Alderman. Yet another crime in a wrapper, which is, got to admit, I've surprised myself with some of these, to be honest. That I had so many in wrappers. But there's been not so many that I've needed prices rubbing out. The odd pencil mark here or there, but that's been about it. It has mainly been the odd spine repair, and obviously the top edges. Now, with my earlier penguins, I've generally made a list of ones that I want to upgrade. And there's a couple coming up, wartime ones, which are already on the list. I know I need to get better copies. They're just waiting for them to come along. There was one that I missed. Well, it's coming up in a minute. I'll tell you about it then. Oh, these need to be brushed off before they go on the main pile. Jurgen. James Branch Cable. What a name. Nice copy there. It's in his wrapper. The last few in the wrappers coming up now, the last couple really. Not many got released in a wrapper after this. Cannon in Residence. Yeah, these have all been from there was the tail end of 1939, wasn't it? And these are all from 1940. I don't think we're going to even hit 1941, but I may be wrong. But it just shows you how prolific the Penguins were. I mean, even when they started, they were doing 10 a month. And Alan Lane was publishing like crazy, wasn't he, during the war? Launching lots of new series and things like that. Right off the map, and this is in a bit of a tatty old dust wrapper, but hopefully underneath it's not looking too bad. No, that's fairly bright, isn't it? The wrapper's seen better days, but really quite worn and faded on the spine, so that would be a candidate where I might take the dust wrapper off, lay it out flat in my big wide dust wrapper box and just leave the book on the shelf without the wrapper, because it would look a bit better. This one's a little bit rough, 271. Now this is the first one we've come across. This was 270, the 271. Well, this goes to dust wrapper flaps, so there's no actual dust wrapper on it, but there's a dust wrapper flap, so the cover itself is almost like a traditional dust wrapper. It's the same on the back cover. Still got your little reading case there. So that was the first real sign. Dust wrappers have now been dropped, although we'll see an odd one later on. It was probably for a book that was, because these are numerical order, it was published slightly out of sequence. So we're starting to see the first real signs of wartime paper rationing. That's okay. This one is one of two of the worst ones we'll see today. It's on my upgrade list. I actually missed a really nice copy of this one for a tenner, and it was a bit more than I wanted to spend, but because mine is so quite really worn, and the copy that turned up was excellent condition. Yeah, this is in a right old state, so that's got some, don't know if that's in pen. Yeah, that's what I'm going to take out. Someone's put the Penguin number on the inside. Well, we knew the number, and someone put £3 on it, so don't know if that's what I paid for it. But the problem with this one is it's got water damaged, and unfortunately there's nothing I can do about that. I can't take the water out, but it's made it all really, you can sort of see it's all not great. Not great. So it's on the wants list as an upgrade, but for the time being, at least it's a first edition, and it's filling a hole. It's filling a number. Now look at this. This one's needs re-gluing down the bottom, and this is another one which I think I will put on my wants list, because what I do when I go back to the computer and I edit all the footage, books that I've come across which are not quite up to scratch yet aren't perhaps particularly rare, I do put on a wants list. So this one here is really common, but it's quite a rough copy considering it's quite a common book. So I'll keep an eye out for this one, and the next time one comes up at a few pounds, you know, 2-3 quid, I'll upgrade it, and I'll put this in my swaps boxes, I should say. So I've got 5 boxes of swaps, but not penguins. I've got about 5 boxes of pans, which I've had a little brainwave. So I'll tell you here first, and when this one goes out the following week, it'll be announced on my main channel as well. But you heard it here first, a little exclusive. So what I'm going to do, as I said, I've got 5 boxes of vintage paperbacks, predominantly pan books. And these are the leftovers from a huge collection I bought about 2 years ago. Now, I try and clear my doubles on eBay, but it's just too much of a time-consuming job listing them individually. So what I thought I'd do, I'm going to get them all out tomorrow, and I'm going to get all the various series sorted out, and I'm going to put them into price order, and I'm going to do videos. So I'm going to do a video of all these books in order. So it'll be like, right, all the following books, and I shall go through them one by one, are say £2 or £2.50, something like that. And then I'll do the same with the books that are like £3 and anything, you know, a little bit more special, priced accordingly. And it will just be first come, first served. So the books will be listed as sold as soon as the person has paid, basically. So you heard it here first. It's coming, and I think it'll be a good fun way of A, clearing all my stock, and B, it'll just be so much quicker than doing it through something like eBay. Right, so I'm going to put this particular one, I'm going to put a little bit of glue just down the rail there. So what I'll do, I'll make a little announcement, but this is another reason. So if you are looking for some old books yourself, old paperbacks, it's probably a good reason to subscribe to my main channel, because that's where I can make community announcements and stuff like that, because this channel's not big enough to do that. It hasn't even got 1,000 subscribers yet. So when I hit 1,000, I think I can at least put community posts up. So once again, if you've not subscribed on this one yet, please do. But yeah, have a look at the other channel, and then you'll know when those books are coming up for sale. I don't expect a massive rush or anything, so you've got a good chance of getting stuff that you might fancy. But I don't even know how many books it is. Probably at least 500 spare vintage paperbacks that need to be cleared out, because they're taking up a lot of room, and I'd rather have the money to spend on more new books than sat in boxes doing nothing. Let's spread the joy. 277 fragments from my diary. And what we do is give these a brush now. Lovely. Now we're looking good. What a mess I make, eh? Right, last little batch. Now, I reckon this might be the last one that ever got issued in a dust wrapper until after the war, and I think it must have just come out, even though numerically it's the right number, I think it must have just got published early before paper rationing really bit. That's my suspicion. And certainly during the war it was not an exact science, you know. Things were getting delayed all the time, you know. Printers were getting hit. All sorts of things, really. But Penguin's paper allowance was based on their pre-war sales, and because Penguins themselves had got off to such a great start pre-war, their actual wartime paper allowance, paper ration from the government was fantastic. So they were able to keep publishing when other publishers just couldn't keep up. Look at that. Boom. Literally, the 80-year-old glue on this one has come to bits. This is what we'll see a little bit more of because of these wartime books. But this is an easy fix, so we'll just pop it down the spine there like so. And on this one, you see the old glue there is just dried up. Now we'll match it up. It's not a particularly rare one, but it is a crime title. But it's not particularly rare, this one. There we are, lovely. It's the first Penguin crossword puzzle book. Now, most of my crossword books have got puzzles that have been done. So have a look at this one, see if this one's got any. Usually it's the first one or two and then people give up, which would have been me. I'm not very good at crosswords. I suppose I'm not bad, I'm just, you know, they don't appeal to me. So that one's actually got no writing inside, so that's quite nice, that one. Not the greatest of condition, but the crossword books generally don't turn out in great shape because they are designed to be written in. This is a really good one, Within Four Walls. This was sent out to Second World War prisoner of war prisoners, but this is a book on First World War escaping. I've read it, it's brilliant, really love it. And look, same guy, like H.O.F. Robbins, must have come from the same collection. How interesting. Yeah, I like wartime escape stories, and that's a good one. Silence of Colonel Bramble. Quite a thin little novel, this one. More like a novella by today's standards. Andre Maurice, as you know, wrote the very first Penguin book, Ariel. The First 100,000, Ian Hay. Now this one's seen better days. It's got quite a damaged bottom of the spine there, which has been sort of glued, but not very well. Yeah, this is quite a tatty old copy, this one. This one, I feel, ought to go on my... Yeah, I'm going to put that one on my upgrade list, because it just... it feels really worn. There's a bad repair that I didn't do at the bottom of the spine. Better copy required of you know, just a fiction one, so we'll go for that. Still got a couple more crimes, and these are obviously getting to be more expensive now because of the time when they were printed. So any of the rare crime ones, I'm just glad to have a copy, and we'll leave it at that. If I'm lucky and I come across an upgrade, well, that will be it. It will just be down to luck. But it was these crime ones that were read and reread several times. Still amazingly 1940. Here's another First World War Escape that was reprinted to aid Second World War soldiers who may have been captured and detained. Amazing. It is the First World War Escape ones are all a little bit, you know, it's an officer's agreement sort of thing. Oh, look at that. Look, it's the same guy. H.O.F. Robbins, 1942. Although this one was a 1940 book. Yeah, HOF. What does that stand for? It must be a military term. And he said he was based at Ordnance House. This is another one. A First World War Escapes to a Cage Birds. Evidently, these are all published at the same time. A very conscious decision to get these books into print so that the British officers could refer to them. Which they did. They almost used these as training manuals, basically full of ideas, until some of the German camps got wind of it. Book on Lawrence of Arabia now. Just a couple more to go. There's a biography. I found no peace. Got the dust wrapper flap, which even now its days are numbered. As you can see, these are really starting to bite. And the very last one we got, it's again quite a scarce one, 290. Russian Road to India. No dust wrapper flaps on this. As I said, they're about to disappear anyway. Far too much of an extravagance. You can see the pages starting to be really thin. But also 1940, so all of these have been from the 1940 period. But I hope you've enjoyed watching me go through and give these a bit of a clean. Certainly there's been some really nice titles in here, and I'm really pleased to have gone through and tidied up these, you know, decades old, 80-year-old old paperbacks. Some of which are, yeah, a few collectible ones in here, that's for certain. Not that that's what it's about, because I don't really collect them for the money. It's just collected for the enjoyment. But yeah, if you have enjoyed today's video, do please give it that thumbs up, and do subscribe if you've not already for regular vintage book cleaning videos. I try and do one of these every Saturday, and so far I've kept the schedule, so that's good news. And I'll be sure to be back next week with another video. Bye.